All right. So, Darren, I am going to give you a little walkthrough of some of the use cases that we envision for the enterprise product and how those users, the clients that we have who are enterprise, are using the platform, what we envision for the platform, and just some things that would be ways in, sort of is how I phrase it. How do you begin to tell the story, from a sales perspective, which is what I'm sure you're most concerned with. So I'm just going to go through real quick 3 different varieties or flavors of enterprise user. And I'm going to try to do this so it's not terribly long, hopefully 15-20 minutes, and this video is done. And you'll begin to get the creative juices flowing about who the avatar is, how they use it, how you can sell it. So let's start right here with the RIA group. And as you've heard me talk about before, there are 2 main sort of targets within the enterprise sort of customer demo, as it were. It's the RIA group guys and it's the badass investor. Well, within the badass investor, there are 2 ways to use the product. And I'm going to show you that in a second. But let's start with the RIA group leader because that's pretty straightforward. This is one of our clients up here in New Jersey. They run one of the largest RIAs up here. NJREI Group is what they call themselves. This guy, Glenn Gallucci, is 30 plus years in the business, very well known in the community. He's a rehabber. He's also a hard money lender. Has built a nice business for himself. This guy, Paul Kim, works with Glenn. I wouldn't call them partners per se, although they do run this RIA group together. And they had a couple of issues. Number one, Paul's main focus, his purview in this relationship is the meetup group, right? Glenn is the deal. He is the star of the show. He's the one everybody knows, been doing this forever and ever. And when he gets in front of the room and people know he's going to be there every week at that meetup, they show up. Paul is the guy sort of behind the scenes, putting things together, organizing the meetup, doing the marketing, et cetera, et cetera. Paul was having a challenge because since all of this grunt work falls to him, it certainly was not, I was going to say it almost wasn't, or it wasn't clear whether, but it certainly was not sort of an arrangement that was working well for Paul. He's putting in a lot of time, a lot of money to book this venue. They do this at this the same airport hotel every week. It's a pretty large room. They have an AV setup. They do, snacks and things like that. He does a fair amount of marketing. They'll put 80 to 100, 120 people in there on any given weeknight, weekly event, although they have this many members, just like we talked about. Some subset is what comes, and I would say 75 to 80 are core that come back over and over, and then that other 20, 30, 40 is a mix of the remainder of this group. At any rate, the issues that Paul was having are these. Number one, lots of time, lots of money going into it. He's sort of breaking even because they only charge a few bucks for people to come. I think it's $10 to come to the meeting every week. And he does a little bit of coaching, Paul does, but he's not really an authority yet. Again, Glenn's the deal, right? He's not really an authority, so he's way undercharging for his services. He was charging like something ridiculous, like a couple $100 for, or maybe it was $300 or $400, but it was something crazy for a year's worth of coaching. And he is an attorney by trade, but has also gotten to be something of a, pretty good with online stuff, SEO, et cetera, et cetera. So he's coaching people on that stuff, but he's charging this ridiculously low amount, and he's managing this big overall event. So that was the conundrum before them. When we introduced Whoozip, what we said was, number one, if you give your guys a tool that is more powerful, more feature-rich, and gives them the ability to see more deals, do more deals, analyze their deals better, you, Paul, can begin to increase your authority in this relationship. You, Paul, can begin to maybe charge more for your coaching, and you, Paul, can maybe make membership in this portal something that you charge for. And even if you don't charge for it, the fact that you can sell our websites makes this portal now a revenue center for you, where before all they had was, I'll show you their meetup page. They had a meetup just like everybody does, but again, hadn't really been thoughtful about why meetup was good for them or if it really fit their overall business. So this is, I'm going to do within 10 miles. That should find it for me. Oh no, let's just say 07093. Well, I'm a member of it. Hold on, bear with me, Darren. I'm doing this on the fly. Where are these guys? Here they are. So this is their meetup group. And, you know, it's nothing to get terribly excited about. It's like everybody else. It's basic. It doesn't have any functionality. People do talk in these discussion groups, but not really. It's a really sort of disjointed, siloed, sort of folder-based thing. And if you want to come in here and look for a deal, you know, maybe people do this. I don't think they really do. But if they do, they come in, and they got to come and find the deals. And then this is how they're presented in their meetup group. This guy, for example, saying that he's got these deals, and he lists out the address, you know, the specs on it, asking rehab ARV. I mean, nobody can really make a real assessment. No real buyer can make an assessment of this property. He's going to have to fire up an Excel spreadsheet or some other tool to figure out if these really are deals. And then maybe he gets back to this guy. There are no pictures, so he has no sense visually of what he's even working with. So again, that is the way they were doing business. That meetup was not serving them well, was not really suited to, again, what we do. And again, Paul had these individual challenges around the time and money investment of running this meetup. So we said, why don't you get yourself a WhoZip instance? We will make it look and feel a lot like your meetup does, right? You recognize that that's the hero image they had back here. We just ported it over, made it look a little bit nicer. And then, in addition to just being able to have random sort of discussion chat strings, now you have your own deal portal. And so you'll see when people come to their site now they haven't really implemented it yet, but they have the ability to come in here and look for the deals that are being presented here within the group. And when someone clicks on one of those deals, right, they'll see, number one, the avatar of the person who presented it. If the person has put in pictures, which it looks like she did not, but somebody can click on those details and they can see, again, her Abby. They can see a little description of the property. We, WhoZip, programmatically have already come in and figured out the units, the bedrooms, the zoning on it, the neighborhood, the year built, tax assessment, etc., etc. People can begin to come in here and say if they like the deal, you know, so she can get a sense of, you know, what kind of traction she's getting out there with the viewers, the audience. People can see what number she put in. She put in an ARV of 395, asking 245, repairs of 15. Very few people will trust a wholesaler's number, so they will always fire up an Excel spreadsheet and do their own. With us, if they're interested, they'll come in here. All of her numbers have already been passed into our deal calculator. And now I can begin to haircut, right? And say, yeah, like every wholesaler, you probably overestimated. What if I have to sell this thing for 375? And what if I can get you down to 225? I can then put in my closing costs and I can swag it with a random, not random, but sort of a guesstimate, or I can get more precise and I can do line item entries. And as you can see, as I put in each one of these line items, they flow in dynamically over here. Put in my escrow payment, my recording fees, you get the picture. I can even put in my prepaids, you know, so somebody can really get a sense of what's going to happen at the closing table, what kind of cash they got to bring. This, my rehab costs, again, maybe I think that Elisha doesn't know what she's talking about, and that's going to be more like $30,000. But I can begin to really assess the deal that she's presenting, you know, not just sort of take her at her word. And I can see it all happen here dynamically. I can even factor in my financing assumptions. Right, so if the project cost, because it just pulled all that stuff from the purchase assumptions, project cost between holding, purchase, rehab, etc., is this, I might say, okay, well, of that, I want to borrow 200 of it, and my lender's going to hit me with some draw inspection fees and probably an appraisal fee and maybe a commitment fee, and maybe that's a couple grand. And I can get money for 12 and 2. And again, I can begin to look at the impact of each element of the deal and where my costs are going, right? I can even decide if I want to wrap those things into the loan versus paying for them outright at the closing table. I can pick the term of my loan. So now, again, I can do a proper assessment of this property. Far cry from what their members were able to do and what they were presenting to other members in this very sad meetup group that they had. So that's just, tip of the iceberg stuff, is that if you're going to have a convening tool, Meetup is fine for people who want to get together and play Ultimate in the park, and you're trying to find people near you who play Ultimate, or Speed Chess or whatever, right? It is not designed to do what we do and Whozip is. So that's one thing. That's just the, sort of tip of the iceberg, right? Is that we offer them the ability to do that. So now going back to the main page of their portal, number one, they have the deal portal that looks just like the Whozip deal portal. People can really assess the deal properly, and Whozip will bring in a lot of that information just dynamically from the APIs that we're hitting. But they can still promote their meetup, right? So if somebody clicks that right there, it's still going to take them to their meetup if they were to decide they still need it. I frankly don't think they still need it, but again, now it's all encompassing. This Whozip instance that they have allows them to do that. They can now still plug their events. They can have it all in one place, which again, right now they still do through Meetup. But then they can have, let me show you this other thing. They also have access to our other tools. So we have the Driving for Dollars thing, which we talked a lot about, and we're really excited about it. Now they can offer that to their members. And all of that, again, is coming through this new portal, which again should replace this Meetup group. They can offer the portal. They can offer a better experience for people who want to share deals. And they can also just offer other tools. So this becomes a resource center. That's really how we pitched it. And that's how I envision it if people use it properly, is that people should come to your RIA group page because you just have the tools of the trade. If I'm new, even if I'm sort of a mid-level person in the business, if I know I can come to my trusty RIA group, with somebody who's been in the business forever, whose meetings I attend and I get good education from, and they also have made these tools available to me, we think that's a pretty compelling value proposition and puts you in a good position to eventually sell other products to them, or at least upsell them on the products that they have already bought from you. So again, by doing this instance, they get the ability to have their own deal portal that looks and feels just like the Whozip deal portal. They get the ability for people to present deals here online, and they get to become a resource center because they're offering our other tools. You'll also notice that they have the ability to do what we call member or user management, because if somebody wants to be a member of this, they have to sign up and they create a credential, just like any other membership type platform out there. This, of course, gives them the ability to do very targeted marketing down the road. And so we sort of had to explain to them why that was valuable, but I think they finally got it. So again, they now have the ability to do user management. They have the deal portal. They have all their other, courses and trainings and announcements and events and things like that. They can promote it all through this portal. And going back to the original sort of setup that I gave you about just the human dynamic, the business dynamic of what was going on between these people, is he was really having a challenge. Glenn is doing okay because he's got such a reputation that he gets a lot of deal flow. We're going to increase his deal flow, but he was doing fine. But Paul, the guy who really is doing the heavy lifting to run this meetup, really wasn't getting much joy out of it. A lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money, and didn't really have much to show for it. Now, because he has this instance, again, the experience is a ton better, but he also can sell tools. And just as an aside, so let me go back in here real quick. So as a member, if I am a member of their RIA and I log in, you'll notice that right here in my dashboard, it says, need a killer website, right, to sell your properties or to find motivated sellers? Have one in seconds that integrates with your New Jersey REI Group account. All I, as a member, have to do is click that button, decide which of these plans is right for me. Excuse me. Maybe I want to get just one site. Maybe I want to get a pair of sites, which would be typically a seller and a buyer site. And I click Start My Trial. Once I click Start My Trial, It's going to take me to this page, which has a little video that gives a demo of some of the cool features with our sites. And then if I've got a domain name, I can just crank it in here right now. VinceBuysHouses.com, right? And I'm going to designate that a seller site. And then for my buyer site, I'm going to say VinceHasGreatDeals.com. Obviously, the messaging is very different talking to a seller versus talking to a buyer, right? So this is the experience that those guys, users, are now having. They put in their credit card information and they click start a free trial, and boom. Now, this guy just sold a website, didn't have to do very much work, nor did his user, because we made it very, very seamless. And now he has a product that he can sell almost passively, and we pay a commission, right? So now that, again, I keep going back to the core sort of business or human challenge that they were having. He's got this much better experience, and now he can sell those websites. He's got a bunch of free tools he's offering to people, but he can sell those websites and earn a 30% commission off of every one that he sells. So I'm going to stop there for this avatar, that being the RIA group leader, but I just wanted to talk through, sort of starting at 30,000 foot, what the dynamic between these leaders was, what they were trying to solve, how we helped them from the business case, and then also just sort of the nitty-gritty of the tools that they now have available to them. And of course, when you're a RIA group leader and you have one of these, you can put whatever else on this landing page that you want. You want to put your bios, you want to, promote yourself and, just what you've done in the industry, that's fine. Again, if you have a newsletter, if you want to put your education stuff out there, I mean, that's totally up to you. You can trick this thing out as much as you want. But having Whozip as the chassis is really what enables you to do a whole lot more than, say, just a basic meetup site, right? So again, I'm going to stop there for this avatar, this being the RIA group, and I'm going to pivot over to the badass investor, right? And there's two flavors. I'm going to start with these guys, Express Home Buyers, who I think you've heard us talk about. Express Home Buyers, definitely, big deal. One of the largest investors on the East Coast, probably number one in the DC metro area. They already had a really great site, and it was really sort of focused on sellers. Let me show you that real quick. So this is their main webpage. And as I think we also explained, their previous business model had really been focused around fix and flip. They were developers, full on sort of pure play, fix and flip, even ground up development. That's what they were doing. My Wi-Fi is not cooperating. I apologize. So I don't know why this is not rendering. You'll notice that my battery is on 0 because it failed yesterday, and apparently I need to replace it, so it's causing just some weird things to happen overall. So bear with me. We'll get through this video, but it does make some things behave a little bit oddly. But the point is that this had been their previous business, was fix and flip or ground up development. And we sort of talked with them and helped them understand that wholesaling, they were in a great position to pivot their business to wholesaling. They could make bigger spreads, bigger returns from an ROI perspective with far less risk, far less holding time for the asset, far less capital intensive. And so we built a portal for them. As you can see, it looks very, very different. It's not about education, although they have a meetup where they talk about their education. This is not about education, though. Their portal that they built with Whozip is all about the deals. So for them, as you can see, they too have the ability for you to register and to log in. And then it's really about pushing you directly to the deals. And once you come in past that landing page for them, what you'll notice is you'll see all their inventory. And it has their colors and their marks and logos, etc., etc. But the look and feel is very much just like the Whozip portal. And the only way that you know that we did it is because we required this right here, powered by Whozip. But we want to make very clear to all of these guys that this is not about us promoting Whozip on their back, right? This is about them getting their brand out there to people. Excuse me. And because they do a lot of sort of wholetailing, they really sell their properties to retail buyers. Their spreads are really big, but the presentation needs to be just right. The retail buyer needs a little bit more pictures. It needs to be a little bit sexier. And so you'll notice that a lot of theirs have, well, all their deals have a lot of pictures, but you'll notice that a lot of them also take advantage of this open house feature. They really run their book of business like a retail operation. And so when you click on one of their deals that has that sort of hovering on it, you'll see that you have the ability to watch their video they may have recorded, scroll through their pictures, etc., etc. But you also can register for one of their open houses. And we built this functionality especially for them. Honestly, not many other people have a big enough operation to run this part of the business the way that these guys do, because they have to staff that open house. They have to have somebody to field the calls. They have to handle scheduling, etc., etc. But the functionality is there for anyone, right? So I'm just showing you again another use case. So these guys, when you come to one of their deals, they're going to ask you to give them your name and your phone number. I'm just going to put in some dummy stuff right now, just so you can see what this looks like. Now that I'm registered, when I click OK, boom, big bold confirmation thing. So this is a really critical part of their business. It's pretty specific to their business, but other big shops, sort of, again, badass investors, they will also see the benefit and the value in this functionality. Doesn't really apply to NJREI Group or other RIAs because, again, they got lots of people's inventory on there. It's not just their inventory, but their users, the people who post the deals on that RIA group site, they would have the ability to schedule open houses, and that's something that they should be promoting to their users. But again, sticking back with this avatar for a moment, the badass investor, if he's trying to really do this wholesaling thing, he's got to create an experience that feels pretty similar to what retail buyers go through, and that includes these open houses. We allow them to calendar it. It'll drop onto their Google or their iPhone calendar, get directions, and of course the ability to cancel out, and we count down. We even send reminders. So that is how this particular avatar is using it. And again, you can see that the like feature, they get a lot of mileage out of. Lots of people will come in here and say whether they like the deal. You'll see they get lots of traction. This one deal has gotten 1,600 views on it, 1,664 views on it. And just like the other deals, you know, when they input this property, we pulled a lot of this stuff programmatically just from our APIs. So again, the chassis is the same, but we begin to just sort of tweak around the edges depending on the avatar and what it is that they need to get out of the platform. Okay, so just to, before we wrap to this last one, that's the RIA guys and how they use it. Again, very different use cases, more about education, getting them out there, promoting their other wares and newsletters and information products. For these guys, they are using it really to promote their deals only, okay? Now, eventually, they have talked about allowing other people to post onto their portal as well because they want to co-wholesale with them, and that's something that we can also help them out with from a technology perspective, but we can go into that later. But at this point, I want to go to our third avatar, which is another version of the big badass investor. So these guys are big badass investors, sort of like express home buyers. I wouldn't say they're quite as big as them, although they definitely get it done. They do a lot of business. This one, they went for a little bit more ornate landing page. But even for them, it's still very front and center right here in this hero image, view the deals. Now, what you'll notice that's different about them than these guys, I talked about they are mulling a co-wholesale program, and they would let other people post deals. But you'll notice that up here in the menu, there is no post a deal menu item. They don't allow it. These guys do, right? And so that's functionality that we can flip on or off depending on the business model of the customer. For these guys, they promote their own deals, right? And that's pretty straightforward. You come in here and you'll see an interface that at this point is probably looking very familiar to you. It's just we changed the color scheme and whatnot, but the filters are the same. The general look and feel is the same. And of course, down there in the footer is still powered by Who's It. But what is different about these guys versus the others is, again, that they, even though they are a big badass investor and not a RIA group, they have already made a decision to make it possible for someone to submit a deal. And that's because, again, they want to do a co-wholesaling thing as well. Theirs is going to be structured a little bit differently than the Express guys, but the point is that they have flipped this switch on already. So I'm going to stop there because I think we're probably at about 20 minutes. And I just wanted to show you the flavors of what's out there. And I'm going to end by circling back to the RIA guys, just because, again, we think that there's so much leverage to be had behind them. Because if you get one of these guys, they have this big following of 2,200 or so. Some of them 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 or more members. The big badass investor, he may have a following. And these guys do. They do run a meetup that's pretty well attended. These guys do not, and most of the big investors are pretty sort of focused on their own business. They don't do a lot of education. They don't have the same tribe as, say, a RIA group leader. But the RIA group leaders, we think there's lots and lots of leverage. So I just want to show one last use case of where we think that you can offer value around having someone who's a